Hello, hello.
I'm moving. You just can't
Good
see it.
afternoon, good evening. This is Rene Manfre with What's Your Passion podcast, and we were on our almost sixth episode. So it's I got a great friend of mine, Brandon Abenine from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, on tonight, and just had a privilege of just kind of getting him on last minute today. I texted him, said, "Hey, you free?" I have this habit of just going throughout my days and realizing today's Tuesday and podcast night. So I'm trying to get used to my schedule no matter what. I'm here at 8:30, so I can put on these events. So What's Your Passion podcast is really all about just really bringing great value to you, our listeners, our people, about everything from real estate, faith, business, all different areas. And I think tonight, really, what you're going to learn from Brandon and his wife Jennifer. I'm not sure if Jennifer's not going to be on tonight, but Brandon and Jennifer have been really successful in the mortgage business, in the real estate business, just really a power couple. I've been knowing them for a couple of years through a good friend of mine, Rick Canamar. And it's really been just really, I love surrounding myself by great people. And I watched Brandon through the last few years. He started his podcast. I was on his podcast a couple of months ago and just really getting him on board so we can kind of start kind of just talking about different things that's going on in your life. So Brandon, buddy, I appreciate you being on tonight, and I'm looking forward to just hearing some good things that's going on with you and Jennifer, what y'all are doing with y'all's business and everything. It's just exciting. So thank you for being online with us.
No, it's good to be on the opposite side where I'm not the host. It's a lot less demanding. I can just freelance it and come on here. You know, it's refreshing to be the guest, and it's really a privilege. Like I feel really honored when people ask me to be a guest on their podcast because I'm always looking for influential or motivating or powerful people in the industry. And so when I'm asked to be a guest, I really get excited by that because it kind of lets you know that you're doing something right.
No, I did. I mean, you and I have been friends for some years now, and I mean, you and Jennifer really are one of those couples out there that y'all are doing things. You have a great family. Y'all are just kind of that model, and you and I have talked about different things, and I think you're in your 40s right now, correct?
Yeah, I just turned 44 a couple of weeks ago, so I'm nearing that mid 40s. I don't like to admit it. I still go and injure myself, occasionally in jujitsu and at the gym, and I don't want to admit that I'm in my 40s just yet, but it's there.
Yeah, you said.
But I love
I'm 10 years. I have almost 10 years on you. My brain, everything feels like I'm still young. So it doesn't change. It really doesn't change. The body starts aching a little bit, but I'm just kind of like right now, I'm going through a little bit of just trying to get back in my training, dieting. Cause I'm looking, hey, I might just be a 58-year-old bodybuilder. You know what I'm saying? I can do it.
Let's do one last show. You, me, and Rick. We'll do three amigos. We'll get on stage. We'll dust off the trunks one last time.
The legends.
I told my wife, it's funny though. I love bodybuilding. I love the sport, and it taught me a lot that actually translated well over to business because. Just like any high-level athlete, when I'm looking for people to hire in my sales organization, I love former athletes, people that competed at a high level, state champions in high school, or they went and played college ball somewhere. They have some kind of history of being in a competitive atmosphere and competing and practicing day in and day out, and that repetition. And bodybuilding was one of, it gets people love to talk trash about it because of steroids, but take steroids in or out. These guys, with or without the steroids, they're the hardest working people in the kitchen, in the gym, the discipline, the number of hours of sleep, the number of grams of protein. Every meal is measured. So the discipline, regardless of whether you're taking supplements or not, the daily discipline is something that anyone who's done it, you can't discredit it. And it does teach you everything you need to be successful in a sales job, in another industry. Same thing with an athlete that practices every day. My son was a quarterback in high school, and he got a college scholarship. Learning the playbook, running the same plays 100 times to execute it with perfection on Friday night when you're on the field. And they went on to win a state title in high school. And of course, at 18 years old, he comes in and he's beating my 30 and 40-year-old salespeople
Right.
his first 6 months on the job, because he had that super competitive drive.
Correct.
And he said it, I'm going to beat all your salespeople.
Mm-hmm.
And that came from that athlete in him, that drive to win at everything, to compete at everything. And that's why I love bodybuilding. I love fitness, nutrition, right, because as we're in our 40s and, like you said, 50s, the daily discipline of eating and prepping all my meals, taking my vitamins, exercising every morning, that all helps me be more productive. It helps me get more done. My energy levels are better. Right. When I don't eat right, when I don't take my my daily nutritional supplements, and I don't exercise, it affects everything from my energy, my mood, my sex drive, everything. It will improve your relationship with your spouse, right, because your mood is better, your sex drive is better, you look better, you feel better, your confidence level is there. So it really is kind of a full thing that I think everyone should be eating well, working out, and we instill it in our kids. My wife, she's never competed. She never has any desire to compete, but people are always asking, was she a fitness?
I thought she did compete for it. I thought she did want to compete.
No, never. She looks like it. And that's the thing. Like she's in better shape than me. Even when I was competing, she looks better than I could ever look. But that was the thing. All the nutrition coaches, they wanted her because she could have been their next poster girl. And she's like, I don't want to compete. I just like to eat right, work out, and exercise. And she's got some good genetics too, which never hurts.
Right. No, fitting to me. I was in the health club business. My brother was in the health club business. So I was always in the health club ever since I was like 8 years old. So I was training people at 8 years old. And I didn't know my brother just told me, the weekends I would, people come in the door. I'd say, hey, I'm Rene. I'm Kevin's brother. I'm going to walk you around and he'll meet up with you after. Right. Yeah. And then through those years of always being in the health club, it's just that confidence. It makes you feel good. It makes you more, it's just that self-esteem, right? And I'm finding that in today's world, a lot of these young kids, they don't have that self-esteem because they didn't go through that phase of working out and their pants are hanging off their freaking butts and all this. It's just crazy, but they've never went through that discipline of being around other people like ourselves, right?
Absolutely. No, you bring up a good point. Like today's kids, they're glued to the social media. They're never leaving the house. They're always on the computer. They're not outside. They're not in the gym. They're not socially active. Even as much as they're on social media, they're not really socially adjusted. And then they lack that confidence, that working out, that exercising gives it. And I'm big on compliments. Like I saw a kid the other day at the gym, a 15-year-old kid, and he was leaving his weights everywhere. Right. And I could have been a jerk to him, but instead I was like, hey, man, I see you're working out. How old are you? He's 15. I said, yeah, I noticed you in here, man. You're looking good. You're putting on some muscle, I've noticed, man. Keep it up. I said, look, but all these older ladies in here, you see them over there on the treadmill and stuff? He goes, yeah. I said, man, they're not as strong as you. They can't lift all those big, heavy 45-pound plates. I said, you can't leave your plates out for their sake, and just make sure you put your stuff up. So instead of like fussing at them, like the gym I went to, it was a hardcore power lifter gym. Like if you left your weights on there, Todd Ernest and a couple of these other 250, 300 pound guys were going to scream at you across the gym to rack your damn weights. But so I learned from fear, like you didn't leave your weights out. But I build the kid up, give him a little compliment, a little boost of his ego, because he's in there and I see him, he's this tank top and he's flexing a little bit and stuff. And so that's good. Like, you start seeing that progress, and that's where a lot, like Tony Robbins says, happiness is from progress, from moving forward towards your goals and seeing improvements. And anyone who's been on a diet for any period of time, ladies, their clothes start fitting better. The waist on their pants is getting looser. You go from a size 8 to a size 6. that's a big deal. It's exciting. You get a boost of confidence. You get that little endorphin high,
Right.
and so that progress is paramount. And I'm a big believer that all kids should be exercising. I'm actually going, my son he always tells me not to contact the principal in the office, but the one thing he did give me the green light to go to the school and the school board. I found out this year, I didn't know this, that last year, like, he doesn't have PE every day. They have PE twice a week.
Yeah, no, yeah,
Bullshit.
that's changed. Yeah, I've heard that's changed.
Yes, that's ridiculous.
Right.
I was pissed. And here we are. We got childhood obesity and all these issues with kids and depression.
Right.
One of the quickest ways to cure obesity and depression is activity. And so these kids they don't need to be sitting in a chair 8 hours a day. You and I don't need to be sitting in a chair 8 hours a day at 40, much less at 8, 10, 12 years old. And he goes, Dad, I would like for you to go push him about PE every day. Because I thought that was absurd that we got rid of PE as a regular weekly, daily subject. And, we're going the wrong direction with a lot of things in this country. And so I think kids, men, especially young boys, I think should be in some kind of martial arts and a team sport. Girls, I think absolutely should be exercising, should be eating well for their self-confidence, for their self-esteem, because so many girls deal with self-esteem issues and body dysmorphia issues. You don't have to look like a fitness model, but just to feel good, look better, and be healthier is huge for any young person. And it creates those habits that lead to good ways of life when you're older. In business, if you're used to doing the same thing over and over again, you're used to following a schedule, you're used to waking up early, making your meals. I did the numbers. I've got an extra month of work every year because I don't take lunch. My meals are packed. I don't go to lunch. So that gives me an extra 22 working days, which is equivalent to one full month every year if I was taking a 1.5, 2 hour lunch like a normal person. So, just those little things gives me an advantage over other people that take lunch every day and go on lunch break.
No, it's just like you're saying, but it's just everything is, if people really look at their time on a daily basis, how much time they waste, and not only conversations, but wasting time on things that really are non-productive. When it comes down to lunch, I make lunch with people that are going to be productive, right? And it's just my mind's just wired that on a daily basis, there's so much I'm trying to accomplish, whether it's through estimates, phone calls, different things, that I really don't have time for lunch. Now I spend time with my team when I have to, my manager and things of that nature. Like today, we kind of went out and did some estimates, but people just waste a lot of time. And it's just, they don't really understand how valuable that is. And when you do eat lunch on a daily basis, on the middle of the day, if you're eating this big ravioli, pizza, or whatever it is, I mean, it just tires me out. So I make 2 shakes a day. I might stop and eat, maybe some kind of meat or something. If I have to stop through a Wendy's or somewhere, I try to just eat the meat. I'm trying to stay away from the breads and the starches. And it's just my mind and like you say, your body just doesn't, it gets to the point where it doesn't like all that other bad food, right? The heavy stuff and everything else. But
when you get to where it's like running an engine on premium gas, and then you put regular unleaded in, it starts knocking and vibrating. It doesn't run right. I mean, it's made to run on a higher octane of premium fuel. And that's the same thing when you start eating right, working out, and then you go eat a bunch of sugar and junk, like you're tired, you're bloated, your stomach's hurting. And it's because all of a sudden you shocked your system with a whole bunch of trash or processed stuff, and it slows you down. So and anything that's going to slow me down, I don't have time for.
No, you're fast paced, just like myself. And I think so. Let's talk about, I know right now your mortgage business is growing. I know you have some different people based in different parts of the states. I know your real estate business is going. Y'all's recent conversation that I watched you and Jennifer talking about with residual income and passive income, which is that's my favorite subject, because that's all I'm obsessed with. Is because you and I come from sales backgrounds, I learned a long time ago that I'm only as good as my next sale, right? And you and I think we had this conversation earlier today at the end of the month, and I started teaching this years ago, and I started doing real estate and teaching real estate agents that they didn't really have real estate income rental properties. And that's where I started teaching. I was like, y'all have to have your own real estate income or business income or something. And that's what I want to help them do because nobody's teaching them. So let's talk about that residual income, passive income, retirement, the things that we really need to do. What's some of the things going on with you guys?
So I was taught, I lacked mentors in my earlier years. I worked in a subprime, kind of a sweatshop sales center, make the deal, max it out. But when I tell you, I learned everything the hard way and the wrong way in my youth and in my early years because I didn't have the mentors, poor growing up. My father was gone a lot of my life, and we rekindled things later in my 20s. So I didn't have the mentors. I didn't have financial mentors. When I got in sales, one of the first things that they taught us, and I preached this too when I was a 20-something-year-old manager, go buy the fancy car, go buy this, go buy that, because I wanted you to spend a shitload of money. So you got to sell a lot more stuff next month to pay for all the shit you bought.
Wow.
And so that was kind of the way we were taught back then. It was, get the fancy car and you'll figure out a way to pay for it. Get this and you'll figure. And believe me, I did that for way too long. I've got a lot of fancy cars and I've got a lot of flashy things, and so I made that mistake because, again, I grew up a misguided youth, idolizing rap music and the flashy things. And so what do you do when you start making six figures and you grew up in an apartment in a bad area of town?
Right.
Oh, of course, I got a condo on the river. I got a boat. I got a motorcycle. I got a car on the rims. I got, all the things that I wanted that I saw. And that was the cool thing for many years. And now here I am in my 40s and I've made millions of dollars and I've had, like Rick says, I've lived 17 lifetimes. I've had a lot of fun. And I've accumulated a lot of things, but I didn't accumulate really any passive income. I had one rental property that we sold for profit last year. And ultimately, all of my income was being the top sales guy. So every month, I had a company, 30 employees. We were doing great, about 4 million, 5 million a year in sales. And so we're making good money, but every month on the first of the month, I start over at zero. Every month it's a grind.
Let me ask you.
I'm on the hamster wheel.
Let me ask you that. So, okay, so you were doing about 4 million. So out of that 4 million, how much did you, because a lot of people don't really understand that when you're doing production to the income, how much was that you were able to net and kind of keep? Was it around the 500 million?
My best year, my wife and I combined, our net take home was I finally made $1 million in a year.
Wow.
That was our best year. Was 2020 and 2021. Our take home was right around $1 million. But then 2022 comes around and slaps you in the face when you own a mortgage company and you're doing 50, 80 refinances a month, and now refinances are gone, and you got to go back to chasing realtor business and doing purchase loans and remarketing, which you had kind of got away from for the last 4 or 5 years. And so, the things that we didn't do, even though I told my sales team, don't stop working with your partners, your realtors, your referral base. Again, they took the easy, low-hanging fruit. When rates doubled overnight, they had to go back out into the industry, and a lot of them left the industry entirely. Because it got hard. It got back to what it used to be, where we got to really work, we got to really hustle and sell. They got spoiled with me making the phone ring off the hook during the refi boom. That they didn't go out and market. They didn't go out and, like we talked about with the daily activities. Making your sales calls, making your appointments, going out meeting with your referral partners, doing the job. Like I say, do the job every day. They didn't do the job every day. And the few that made it are still doing well. And then a lot of them went back to salary jobs because this is too hard. The up and down and the grind of really doing sales is too much for most people. But if you're smart And what I'm teaching people now, my son told him, you're not buying a house. Your first property, you can buy a duplex or a fourplex and live in one and rent the other units out. And then in a year from now, we can do that again. I've got some videos on TikTok, and I think one of my highest viewed TikTok videos was like, or Instagram videos had like the 20-something thousand views last I saw it. And it was talking about you can buy a fourplex, live in one, put 3.5% down FHA.
Right.
So now you get a low owner-occupied interest rate, a low down payment, and you got 4 income-producing units. And then a year later, you can go do it again on a conventional loan and put 5% down and live in it for a year and do that. So then in a matter of 3 years, you could have 8 income-producing units, be in your early, mid-20s, and now you've got 8 rental properties that are producing income, and you didn't have to put 20-25% down like you normally would, because that's what stops most people from buying rental property, is that 5 or 6 figure down payment investment, because you can't get a fourplex like you could in the past for $100,000, $200,000. There's just not many out there anymore. A good fourplex will probably cost you $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 in today's market. And so putting 20-25% of that down is a barrier of entry that stops most people. But to put 3.5% down, you're talking $15,000, $10,000, and I got an income producing multi-unit rental property. Or you can even get a gift from your family for that down payment. So what I'm showing people now, don't make the mistakes I made. Don't go buy the condo on the water. Don't go buy the motorcycle and the fancy car first. Let's buy the duplex first, or the fourplex, or a triplex even. Either one, but find a multi-unit, live in that, humble yourself for 2-3 years, then go buy another one. And again, just use all your rental income to put in the savings. Don't even touch that, because you got your regular job income. And now all of a sudden you've got these 3 extra units. And when you move out, now you got 4 units here, you buy another one, you got 4 units here, you rent 3, and you're living still for free. So now you've been living for free for a couple of years. All that rental income goes into savings. And then you've got money that you can continue buying more properties. If rates drop, guess what? This loan that today is probably 6%, 6.5%. You lower the rate, cash out. Now you got that equity you could pull out, buy another rental property. And so within 5 years, like I showed myself, you could be making an additional 10, 15 grand a month in rental income. And now you're living a good life off of your residuals, and then your income from your job and your passive income are equal. That's where life is good. And that's what I'm doing now in my 40s is I want to get my passive income in line with my active income that I get from selling every day. Because right now I still got to wake up. I got to sell. After we finish this podcast, I actually have a call with a buyer. My wife and I are writing a contract on a deal this evening, and I'll be working till 10 o'clock tonight easily.
No, it's the time that you're putting in, and it's most of the people don't understand how fast time flies, right? And I'm where you are right now. I've done real estate. I had a bunch of rental property back in early 2000s, and when I think back on it, making 300, 500 a month, sometimes over and above, and I thought I was a millionaire. Well, I was a millionaire on paper, right? And when Hurricane Katrina hit, that's when I had 30-something properties went underwater in one night. And that's where it hit me back in 2005. That's ever since then, everything I'm trying to do is building residual income, passive income. And one minute everything's going fantastic. I started my Allstate insurance agency. Bang, I was number 1 in the state, 100,000 premium, and everything was going good. But the industries, everything changes. And that's why I tell everyone, you have to focus on diversity. You have to have different types of residual income. And you sometimes have to start focusing on different states. Like right now, Louisiana for me is it's not very attractive to me right now. Now I'm here and I'm still building my lawn care business here, but I'm looking at some other businesses in Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Tennessee, and Oklahoma, because they're different taxes, insurances, and things of that nature, and some advantages. And you and I talked about
it when you said multiple states.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I'm huge on that because I've been there too. Like I've been highs and lows. The subprime collapse, I had to start over. 2012, the company I was working for, the owner stole all the money out of the company and shut it down. And so 2009, start over. 2012, start over. And then we're rolling. I started Intelligent Mortgage in 2014. Everything's rolling. 2016, all my business was local. Baton Rouge, Denham Springs, Zachary, Ascension,
is that when the
all
flood?
local, all local business.
Is that when that flood happened?
The freaking great flood of 2016. Every house in our industry, in our market, just about flooded, was destroyed. And so overnight, I've got no sales, I've got no deals. And I thought I found my way out because I was like, well, shoot, we're going to do a ton of refinances and remodeling loans. I thought we were going to be good because now I'm just going to do a whole ton of refinances, and everyone's going to have to remodel their house. But I didn't anticipate SBA is going to come in and give 1% SBA loans. And so everyone who needed to remodel their house got an SBA loan at 1%, 1.5%. They didn't refinance like they did in the past to take their equity out. So I couldn't contend with that. And we went 9 months. And that's why one thing one of my early bosses taught me was you always need to have at least 12 months of savings to live on if shit hits the fan. I mean, look, we were doing everything right. Our businesses were going well. Your rental properties were doing great. And a freaking apocalyptic flood and an apocalyptic hurricane wiped everything out. And it's because you were centralized in one area, New Orleans. I was all here. So now I'm licensed in Florida, Texas, Oklahoma, Virginia, Mississippi, Alabama, the whole Gulf South. And we're going to be in all 50 states by next year because I don't ever want to be in one market because one big hurricane can wipe out one area. And then we lost $200,000 to $300,000 in that 6 to 9 month period in 2016 after that flood.
Oh yeah.
So if you don't have a good savings and you're not in a position to withstand that, you're out of business, you're bankrupt, and you're going and taking a salary job somewhere. And so each time that I got knocked down, luckily I always had that advice that, Tracy Jones, one of my first bosses, was big on. You need to never have less than 6, but you always want to try to have 12 months or more savings in the bank that if anything goes wrong, you can still sustain. If you got to sell, you got to do whatever, at least you've got enough to live on for that time period. And most people right now don't even have 2 or 3 months savings. It's so expensive to live right now. So, that's another thing. Like I'm trying to teach people the things I learned later in my career. Have 12 months savings, buy a multi-unit first. Don't buy a house first. If you're young, in your 20s, even if you have kids, you can live in an apartment for a couple of years with your kids. And build wealth and build a financial background for them to where you've got all that residual income. And then you could leave those rental properties to your kids one day. That's a big thing for me is that. And now my wife and I are looking at, she joined EXP Realty because of the recruiting and the residual income model there, where I was with people last week in Cabo at their big event. I'm sitting with people that they're making $100,000, $200,000 a month residual income from the agents that they've recruited underneath them. And they're not even the highest earners at the company. These are some of the normal mid-level, higher earners, but the top earners, they are making $1 million, $2 million a month. They're living on yachts in Puerto Rico, and they're truly living the dream with $2 million a month in passive income that's coming in. Obviously why wouldn't you move to Puerto Rico if you can work from anywhere?
Oh, yeah.
And you can drop your income tax bracket to 4%.
No, it really is. The passive income is like right now. I'm going through a phase with my world that I'm dealing with some private equity partners, and they're opening up my eyes, and I'm just really paying attention. Even though I knew about this for years, I just didn't think I was ready, right? And now I'm looking at businesses that are 5, 4, 5, 10, 6 million because the cash flow, right? And I'm looking to buy cash flow and build my businesses faster. So it's sometimes everybody's person, they're what's the old saying, your network is your net worth, right? And sometimes if you're not putting yourself in those positions to learn and be surrounded by those individuals who are bigger thinkers, that it's hard for you to really imagine it right now. So for most people, they hear it, but they can't really believe enough in it in themselves to understand, hey, it does take time. These people didn't do it overnight. So you have to be disciplined.
It took years.
Focused. And you have to kind of keep on telling people and recruiting and training. And because I've done recruiting and training for both insurance and real estate agents. And it's really just majority of people don't believe enough in themselves to just stay consistent and stay focused, right?
Right. Well, and so things that, again, I should have done early in my career, and I look back on is hiring a coach, hiring a business coach, mentor, invest the little bit of money to hire a real business or success coach in whatever industry you're in, because that will absolutely change your life. When I was in bodybuilding, I had a nutrition coach that did all my meals. I didn't want to think. If it said eat 7 ounces of this, 6 ounces of this, and drink 2 protein shakes, I knew every meal. I weighed it on the scale. I didn't have to think. The coach said do this. I did exactly what it said, and I was always the leanest and the most fit guy on stage. I wasn't always the biggest. Genetics plays a part there, but I was always the leanest one on stage because I knew I could outwork everybody and I could be in the best conditioning. And the same thing with a business coach. Most of the time, we're lucky if people do 50% of what we tell them in coaching. So if you are disciplined enough to do 75, 80% of what your coach is telling you, you'll be a freaking millionaire. And you will be a top producer in whatever industry you're in. And you have unlimited potential. So I tell people all the time, man, you got to hire a coach and get out there and do what they're telling you to do. If they're telling you whatever industry you're in, this is what it takes. This is what it takes to be successful. If it takes 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, again, Steve Martin, my overnight success took 18 years. He was in clubs. Like you said, there were nights he performed to an empty room. And people see him on Saturday Night Live and everywhere else, and a huge movie star. But it wasn't until year 18 that he really blew up. And that's most of those guys. It doesn't happen right away. The people that I saw at the EXP conference, a lot of them been there 5 years, 10 years, some 3 and 6 years. But again, it's only a couple of years. And the money that they were making after that couple of years is more than most people will ever make in a year. $300,000 in residual income, $100,000 a month in residual income. And this was done in a span of 3 to 5 years. So also on the flip side, guess what? There's people that have been at EXP as real estate agents for 6 and 8 years that are still broke and selling one house here and there because they're just doing what it takes to get by. So there's nothing guaranteed anywhere you go. I look at the guy, I used to talk about, I don't care what you are, be the best at it and outwork everybody at it. That guy that had SDT, the bullhorns on the garbage cans there in New Orleans. Forget his name.
It's blowing me. It's on my mind.
But I used him as an example in some of my talks before of I don't care what you do, just be the best at it. Be the best garbage man, and you could be a millionaire. And what did he do? He started right after Katrina with garbage trucks, and he was the best. They kept their garbage cans, their dumpsters. They were spotless. They were clean. and he ran a route when everyone else had left the city.
Sidney Torres.
He kept everything meticulous. Huh?
Sidney Torres.
Sidney Torres.
Yeah.
That guy made millions. Started with one garbage truck in the quarter right after Katrina when things were, and then if you saw, his dumpsters were always spotless, black, shiny, had the big bullhorns on it, his garbage cans. And then if you looked around, you saw them everywhere. And then I don't know how many millions he sold that company for. And then he had a non-compete for a couple of years, and then he reopened another one, and then he got all his clients back. I mean, the guy's made a fortune. He could have retired when he sold that company. And that started with one garbage truck. But again, he was the best garbage man in the state of Louisiana, and he's a friggin' multimillionaire. And obviously pretty smart.
So we got about 15 or 12 so minutes. So what are some of the things that you feel like right now? So y'all are focused on passive income. You're looking at recruiting agents. You're looking at building you have different people in different states with your mortgage company. So what I heard, you have different leaders that you're putting in position in those locations.
Yeah, I got great leaders in Florida and Oklahoma right now at our 2 offices there. You know, that's really a key for me, is finding great leaders and empowering them to do what they do. I made the mistake, you know, one of the mistakes I made was being the smartest guy in the room. I want to be the dumbest guy in the room now. I want people around me that are better at everything. Read that book, Who Not How. Yeah, I made that mistake for years trying to figure out how to do everything. And instead, that book, I could summarize the book in one paragraph. I mean, it's literally, don't worry about, I don't need to know how to be a great technician, be great at technology. I don't need to be great at bookkeeping. I need to find the who that's great at those things and hire that person. Pay them well, keep them, because that's what you've got to find in business, is plug in the who that's really good. You only need to be really, really good at one thing, maybe 2, but really just be an expert in your one area, and then find the other who's that complement that and bring them into the organization. And my goal this year is 10 offices around the country, 50 loan officers, and those guys running each of those 10 offices, and things will just grow and explode from there. We'll hopefully be at 100 offices within 3 to 5 years.
No, you got the right mindset, and the same thing. I'm kind of like the same way. I've been through so many different businesses through the years that I have a lawn care business, right? I don't know how to start my lawnmower. I don't want to start my lawnmower. I never did, and I'm not planning on. I didn't do it for that reason. And the same thing with plumbing or HVAC. The different companies I'm looking at right now is that I'm just looking at parlaying on top of my company so I can expand into different services that are need-based services. And some people can't fathom that, because because they haven't put themselves in position to learn. And sometimes, like you're saying, I have a good CPA. I have some good individuals that I'm surrounding myself by. And I've learned, like you're saying, I'm good at certain things, but I'm not good at everything. So I'm just finding my way to the same thing, is putting people like you and other people in my life that we have these conversations, because you know things about mortgage business that I don't know. I was never a mortgage guy. So I don't want to do the mortgage. I don't want to do the paperwork. I don't want to do it. So I'm going to call you and say, listen, if I'm looking for a deal that's in Oklahoma right now, what do you have? What's the options I got to buy this property, right? So when you surround yourself by great leaders, it's so much easier to really build. I'll tell you a story. Back before Hurricane Katrina, I had about 13 properties. And this banker, I told him I had 4 properties that I was buying. And he told me I could not buy those properties. And I said, why? So, well, the regulations or whatever, this FHA, whatever BS. So I called another friend of mine, and it was Rob, and he was a broker. And he said, Rene, don't listen to him. We can buy all 4. We just have to put them with different lenders. So I bought all 4 properties in 1 month, in almost the same week, made $150,000 cash at the table because I bought them so cheap. 60 days later, my lender called me up all pissed and, Rene, I'm looking at your credit report. Where are these properties? I said, dude, don't ever tell me I can't do something. It's you couldn't do it. It doesn't mean I couldn't do it. It's just your bank thinking and everything else around, right? So
exactly. And that's one thing, I'm like, and the people I was around last week, same thing. I come from a place of abundance where if I can't do it, I probably know the bank or the lender or who can do it.
Correct.
And I am always one to give a referral, to point someone in the right direction. Like I tell everybody, call me. I have people call me for auto loans. I have people call me for land loans. I'm not really the guy to buy a piece of land, but guess what? I got 3 banks that are great at it. So
Right.
you call me, and what type of land? Is it multi-acres? Is it just a lot in the neighborhood? Whatever it is, I'm going to put you with the best banker, knowing your credit, your situation, and I'm going to get you in the right place. And so I don't mind sharing and putting people where they need to be if it's a better deal. Every once in a while, it's rare, but there's that one in about 100 loan scenarios that, damn, they got an in-house deal at the bank. My friend's wife was a surgeon, and this bank in Texas was doing 100% doctor loan with no PMI, and the interest rate was like a full percent below what the current market rate was at that time. And I even called the bank and I went, how are y'all doing this? They said, we're losing money on this loan. It's a loss leader for us, but what we require is that the doctor open their checking, their banking, and their investment accounts with us. And we're playing the long game that they're going to keep all their money here with us for the next 5, 10, 15 years. And so they're losing $10,000, $20,000 on that mortgage. And then taking the risk that, hey, she's a surgeon, she's going to make millions of dollars. They're going to keep all their money and their investments here. So yeah, like there's that 1 in 100 loans that we can't do like that. And I told my buddy, I said, dude, that's a deal. Take that. I'm not upset. The best I could do at the time was a 95% loan for $1 million and a 0.5% higher rate. I was like, no, I'm not gonna do that to you. Like, you need to take that deal. And guess what? I've done 2 deals with him since then, and he's bought rental property. And I always point my clients in the right direction. And like you said, because after that, you're kind of aggravated. You're like, damn, this dude, could have pointed me in the right direction, could have shown me there are other avenues out there. Because yeah, that's just that portfolio lender like Fannie Mae won't let you have more than 10 loans with Fannie Mae.
I think that was my issue.
Yeah, there's other boutique lenders that don't have those limits, and they're not Fannie Mae backed loans, that you can have 15 or 20 properties with them, and then you can have another, like you said, 10 or 15 here, because there's no rule against having 100 properties. It's just one bank doesn't want to be too leveraged, because like look, when Katrina hit, all of a sudden, they're leveraged.
I'll share with you what's happening with me right now. So I have a gentleman who's connected with private equity and family money, right? So it's a whole nother world. So right now, a lot of the banks, and you might know this, a lot of the banks are having some struggles right now with some of the lending. So because they're kind of like over leveraged with some areas. So this gentleman has the ability where some individuals, even if they're showing a loss on their tax returns and things of that nature, because they're private equity, they're able to do those type of loans for businesses, right? So it's all about really having this network. So like this week, I have a meeting with my banker, my CPA, and this gentleman here, so we can maybe say, hey, if there's anything in your portfolios that people are either, 1, they're struggling, or 2, they're looking to sell their businesses, but they don't know how to really retire or whatever, or the exit. So I'm trying to really kind of moving into the business arena and finding these individuals to help support, just like yourself. I always look at it as we can put ourselves in position to where we're the resource. People will come to us, and sometimes you might not make some money on it, but they'll remember that, hey, you did your best to help that person.
I can be the connector. Exactly. I can be the facilitator and put you in the right place. And that goes a long way. And like you mentioned, the banks they're tightening up a lot. Interest rates are rising. Funds are low. Their equity, their warehouse banking lines are being cut. And so I'm doing way more commercial lending than I've ever done. I used to not advertise. I used to not even promote commercial because in the past, a lot of times we weren't super competitive in that space. And now the paradigm's kind of shifted where we've got some better commercial lending outfits, some better channels to send our commercial deals. And the banks have gotten way more restricted, larger down payments, more investment and higher rates. And so they're not doing fixed rate terms. They're 2, 3, 5-year balloons. Right. And so all of a sudden I'm able to do a 30-year fixed for a commercial deal. I'm able to do 15, 20, 25-year fixed, things that the bank can't do. And now I'm seeing more commercial deals come through the door, and we don't advertise it. It's just because, again, over the years, I would always put them with the right person, or here, go here. And now all of a sudden we're starting to do more commercial deals, and it's becoming actually a piece of our business model where we're going to eventually have a commercial team, because we could really actually market that and have a full-time commercial specialist in the company.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk to you about that.
It's changed a lot the last couple of years.
I'm going to talk to you about that, because that's pretty much my space right now. Is I love commercial. I understand it, and it's a space that I'm more excited about versus the residential side. So you and I definitely can partner up on that, because I'd like to learn more about how your programs are, because the relationships I got with some lenders, you might be able to help them. So that'd be a good little connection.
Yeah, I've got some great outlets, very niche stuff, off, kind of off the beaten path. And like you said, no income products for investors buying rental property. We don't even need income on rental property anymore. We just use the rent to offset the mortgage, and now we don't even have to show tax returns. So you can write off everything, show a loss. We don't need it for our investors. As long as you got the down payment, we're good.
Is the down payment so like 20%, 15, 20%?
Around 20. Yep, around 20% on that. And we're closing a ton of those deals right now, because most of your real estate investors, they've got so much depreciation and expenses that they don't want to show a ton of income. That's the beauty of, and that's the thing I didn't like. I used to say, I don't want to be a landlord for $500 a month. But what I was too naive and I hadn't been educated to, it wasn't just that you're cash flowing $300 or $500 a month. It's that I could depreciate that property $50,000, $100,000, and all of a sudden I could lower my tax liability and save myself $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a year on my tax bill to the IRS.
Right.
Now I'm looking at things from a much broader perspective. When you start writing 6-figure checks to the IRS, then you realize, oh, that's why I need some rental properties. I need some losses. I need some write-offs, that aren't true losses, but I can take that accelerated depreciation. Just like I didn't realize why a lot of my rich friends, they get a new Escalade every 2 years. And I'm like, dude, you're losing your ass on those vehicles. No, they weren't.
Right.
They were depreciating the full cost of that Escalade over that 2-year period, which is dropping their income tax by 80, or freaking Escalade now is well over $100,000 for a nice one. So I'm taking $100,000 off my tax return. So that alone, if I'm in a 40% tax bracket, just saved me 40 grand. That note is $1,500 a month. That car literally paid for itself just in my tax savings. And so all of a sudden you start to learn how to play the game. And people hated on Trump. I don't care, love him or hate him. I'm not here to talk politics, but everyone was talking shit about his tax returns. Who gives a fuck? His tax returns, he owns billions in real estate. So if he pays no federal income tax, good for him. He knows how to play the game. One of my mentors makes 7 figures. He told me, Brandon, I make 7 figures. I pay no federal income tax. He owns, I don't know how many now, 50 to 75 commercial warehouse buildings, industrial buildings, all triple net leases. He works, like you said, he's like, Brandon, I work a total of maybe 15, 20 hours a week now. He's got it all leased out, and he's buying, 1031 exchanging, he's depreciating, and he's working it every year. Guy pays no federal income tax, makes 7 figures. That's the way to do it.
The rich, I deal with a lot of boat companies, so I deal with these guys on these boats. And just the other day, I was driving a guy all the way up to, I think we went up to Tennessee, and he was talking about buying a car. He wanted to buy this car for $100 and something thousand, And I said, dude, let me tell you something. So you're making good money. You're a boat captain. You're making good money. You're 20. I think it was about 28 years old. And I told him, I said, all I can tell you is you need to start understanding rich dad, poor dad. You need to start understanding employee, self-employed, business owner, investor. At this point where you are, like you said to your son, that you need to start buying some rental properties first, get the passive income coming in, and then eventually let the passive income buy the little toys. But don't buy the toys first,
Yes.
because you're going to screw yourself. And it's amazing how many people just don't. They don't know. They don't know.
I did it the wrong way. I'm preaching. Yeah, I'm preaching to myself. You know, if someone had taught me this 20 years ago,
Correct.
and if I'd have been more disciplined, you know, I've had all my favorite cars, and now I want to sell them all. Like, they were fun.
Right.
They're fun for a little while. You know, they're cool. I had everything from a McLaren to a Rolls Royce and Bentley, S-Class Mercedes. I had them all.
Right.
And at the end of the day, they got me some business because people they were conversation pieces. And what do you do? And you'd see the license plate. So the cars pay for themselves in the fact that I did get more business.
But you got to be making the money. You were making the money.
Yeah, I don't care what people say. People do judge a book by its cover. If you show up in a beat up old Hyundai, or you show up in a Mercedes S-Class to the same business appointment to book a listing in real estate, looks matter when you show up on the appointment. You need to be dressed nice, look presentable, and have a well kept. Doesn't have to be the fanciest car, but it needs to be clean. It needs to be very well kept and well maintained, because people see that. When my wife shows up to an appointment, they see her license plate, they see her car, and they go, "Oh yeah," I can't tell you how many times they go, "Oh, you really know what you're doing." Right. Immediately. You know, and she's dressed to the nines. She's rolled up in a freaking red Porsche to her appointments, and they go, "This girl knows what's up." And so there is some degree where in the right industry, but I have a friend that was in window sales, and he was selling in New Orleans after Katrina. Right. He was the opposite. He said, "Brandon, if I show up in your car, no one will buy." Correct. He drove an old Honda Civic for 15 years till it finally died with like 400,000 miles going to and from New Orleans. Because again, know your clients, know your clientele. He would, in his baseball cap, his polo shirt, very unassuming. He's now the president of Window World, my friend Jarrell. Wow. But he was their top salesman for years. I mean, he was to and from New Orleans 7 days a week. The dude worked nonstop. And he had the opposite. Like, for his industry, he doesn't need the fancy car. He can't show up because these are people in average to lower income houses buying windows after storm damage. Like, they don't want to see you roll up in a freaking Mercedes or a Bentley, because then they're like, "Well, you're overcharging me." Right. So it is one of those things. Like, depending on your industry, you know your clientele, and again, mirror your clients. Just like when I used to ride around to my rental properties, I drive my older vehicle versus my newer vehicle, because all my tenants are always saying, "Hey, Mr. Rene, you got all that money, you know?" And it's just, you start realizing, I don't need to pay rent this month. You got a Mercedes, you're good. I'll just send you the rent when I get it. So yeah, you got to dress the part. You got to look at your vehicle. It's all these different things. So yeah, it's amazing how the world is right now on social media. That it's all about. Oh God! And then half these jokers on social media, they're in my freaking Rolls Royce has dents on the hood, on the roof, because it was in some rap videos and stuff before I got it. It was actually Nelly. I found out it was Nelly's Rolls Royce. Like half the time they're using someone else's car and they're renting up. My cars have been in so many rap videos and stuff. That's not their cars. And these Instagram influencers, half of them are full of shit. Yeah. They're in a rented plane, in a rented car, on a rented yacht, and they're doing these videos. Buy from me, I'll teach you how to do all this. It's funny to me sometimes when I watch some of these influencers and business coaches and stuff on there. And they really don't. You're starting to see, like right now, you're doing your podcast, I'm doing my podcast, right? And so my office right now it's really, I'm comfortable. I'm not looking to make my I'm not looking to, now I do want to upgrade over time and make my little studio, because I had that at one time.
but I'm seeing more of the individuals kind of going natural, because they're starting to say that, the ones who are too fancy, it's hard for people to imagine and believe. So as coaches or trainers, like we're becoming, I want people to say, hey, this is real. This is real. This isn't, I'm not telling you what you got to do all this other stuff. Just do the consistency, focus, and be around the right people, and do the things that we're telling you to do. And you can get to where you're trying to go to. And don't think you have to have all this stuff to get there.
No, I want to start same thing. Like I want to get into business and life coaching, and when I write out my program, like I want to incorporate the nutrition, the daily activities, my wife and kids. I mean, people always at, how's Asher? How are the kids? Like the state champions in football, national champions in jiu-jitsu, he's in wrestling now. And our daughter, did great in volleyball in high school. Like our kids, what is the secret? What do you do? How did you get everyone, because it does. I mean, it's like the model family and but it took a lot of work and it took a lot of, discipline and sacrifice. And, what are the things that you need to focus on in a relationship, in a marriage? What are the problems you had? And so, I look at how can I coach people to have the fulfilled life, the happy family, the happy life, the health, and the wealth. Like my show, I call Financial Fitness, Health and Wealth. Like that's my passion. Those are the two things that I think you can never have enough money and you can never be too healthy. So if we can help with both, I can easily coach someone. Again, not everyone's going to be a millionaire because not everyone wants to work that much and that hard. Not everyone's going to have six-pack chiseled abs because not everyone wants that. But everyone can be healthy and make a good six-figure income. And that's what I can show people is how can you make a good living, be happy, have a balanced life, and have residual income, because I've learned how to do it. I've learned the hard way. And now after the last 5 years, like I really know the right way to do it because I've learned from the best in the industry. And I also, like all the mistakes I made coming up, I can help you kind of shortcut and not make those same errors in your career.
So we got to wrap up here, brother. I mean, it's been a great talk. So tell everybody when are you doing your podcast? On what night?
So
how can people get in touch with you?
99% of the time, we do it Facebook Live. It runs on Spotify. It runs on iTunes. It's called Financial Fitness. And I go live at 6 p.m. Central on Facebook. That's when I run my show
every
live.
Night?
And then
every night? Every Monday.
Monday.
Every Monday. Okay.
Monday at 6.
So every Monday. Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, then good.
Yeah, Mondays at 6, unless certain holidays or if there's some kind of extenuating circumstance, but we try to go live every Monday at 6. And I love to have really strong, influential guests. We're looking at a couple of celebrity guests this year, some pro fighters as well, and kind of getting some bigger name guests on the show, because those people have a lot to share and a lot of knowledge and value that they can bring as well.
Good. I appreciate you coming on tonight, my brother. I think that tonight was a great night. So I'm going to put I'm going to go, and when I do this, I'm going to send you the video on this, and I'm also going to put that information in my subject information on YouTube. So I know if you want to get in touch with Brandon, you can reach him anywhere on Facebook, LinkedIn, all those different social media, Instagram. He has great videos, great content. So follow Brandon Abidin, Abidin. Is that correct?
That's good. That's right. Yes, sir.
So it's I appreciate everything tonight, and I appreciate you coming on, Brandon. I look forward to the next one. We're going to have you on again.
Oh yeah, man, I love it. Anytime. I'm always here with you.
Thank you.
For sure.
Good night, guys. You have a good evening.
Thanks for having me. You guys have a great one.